Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we unpack the secrets hidden in plain sight, or in this case, a very important business deal that might just change the game for Spectral Capital Corporation. So Spectral Capital Corporation just dropped some major news, and we're here to decode what it all means for the company, its shareholders, and the future of telecommunications. Stick around because this could be a big one. And hey, before we dive in, if you love getting straight answers from these sometimes dry SEC filings, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We also have a fantastic community over on Discord with the link in the description below to join the conversation. Alright, let's get straight into it. Spectral Capital Corporation, a company we've been keeping an eye on, has announced a significant move. They've entered into an agreement to acquire a company called 42 Telecom. This isn't just a small acquisition either. Spectral is buying 100% of 42 Telecom, which is based in Malta. Now, how are they paying for this? Well, it's through their own stock. Spectral is going to issue a whopping 8 million shares of its common stock to the sellers of 42. And there's another 8 million shares that are being held in what's called escrow. Think of escrow as a holding place for these shares. They're set aside to be released only if certain performance targets are met or if valuation guarantees are fulfilled. This is a common way for companies to make sure a deal goes as planned and to incentivize the sellers to continue performing well after the acquisition. This deal is a big step, but it's not a done deal just yet. There are a few important conditions that need to be met before 42 officially becomes a part of Spectral. These are what they call customary closing conditions, which really just means standard business requirements. We're talking about getting approval from Spectral's board of directors and potentially their shareholders. Plus, and this is critical, they need to finish a really thorough audit of 42's financial records. This audit has to be done by a firm that follows the standards set by the PCAOB, which is the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board. This ensures that the financials are accurate and reliable, which is super important when you're buying a company. Once all these boxes are ticked, 42 will become a wholly owned subsidiary of Spectral Capital Corporation. But that's not all the news. In a bit of a twist, Spectral has also decided not to go ahead with the previously discussed deal. Remember that non-binding term sheet from May, where they were looking to invest in Perks Loyalty Limited, also known as White Label Loyalty. Well, that plan is now off the table. No formal agreement was ever signed for that, and the initial understanding has now expired. So while they're busy acquiring one company, they're pulling back from another potential venture. This shows they're making strategic choices and focusing their resources. To share this big news, Spectral and 42 Telecom actually put out a joint press release on July 15th. This release talks about how important this transaction is for the company's strategy, which is always a good sign when companies get together to announce growth. Now, you'll often see this in these kinds of reports. Companies will include a note about forward-looking statements. This is basically a legal disclaimer telling everyone that some of the things they're saying might be about the future and aren't guaranteed. Words like believes, hex, anticipates, and plans are clues. They're essentially saying, hey, we're hopeful about the future, but things could change. It's good to be aware of this when you're reading any company's announcements, but it's standard practice and doesn't necessarily mean anything negative. Looking at the details of the deal itself, the agreement is dated July 13th. This is the core document that lays out all the terms between Spectral Capital Corporation, Heritage Ventures Limited, which is an Irish company, and 42 Telecom Limited from Malta. This is where all the nitty-gritty of the acquisition is spelled out, including the number of shares, the conditions, and what happens if things don't go as planned. And finally, as we mentioned, there's the press release that came out on July 15th. This is the public announcement of the deal, giving a high-level overview and highlighting the strategic importance of bringing 42 Telecom into the Spectral family. So what does all of this tell us? Spectral Capital Corporation is clearly in an expansion phase. They're actively looking to grow by acquiring other businesses. And this deal with 42 Telecom seems to be a major focus. The use of stock for the acquisition is common and can be a sign of confidence in their own company's valuation. However, the significant portion of shares held in escrow for performance-based payouts is where the real story lies. It signals that the seller's future earnings and the deal's overall success are directly tied to the performance of the combined entity. The fact that Spectral is not pursuing the white label loyalty investment also suggests a sharpening of focus. They're choosing their battles and their growth avenues carefully. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. Often it's better to do one or two strategic acquisitions well than to spread yourself too thin. The success of this acquisition will hinge on a few key factors. First, the completion of that PCAOB compliant audit is crucial. It's the gatekeeper for the deal's finalization. Second, and perhaps more importantly, Spectral needs to successfully integrate 42 Telecom into its operations. This means combining cultures, systems and strategies smoothly. If they can do this effectively and if 42 continues to hit those performance targets, then that escrowed stock could pave the way for significant future value. We need to watch how Spectral leverages 42's capabilities, especially in the telecom sector, and how it all fits into their broader corporate strategy. Are they looking to expand their market reach, consolidate their position, or diversify their offerings? The filing doesn't give us a dollar amount for the acquisition, but by issuing so much stock, they're betting on their own growth and the potential of 42. In conclusion, Spectral Capital Corporation is making bold moves to expand its business through acquisition. The 42 Telecom deal is a significant step, with much of its true value dependent on future performance. The decision to abandon the white label loyalty deal shows a deliberate strategic approach. It will be interesting to see how these maneuvers play out, and if Spectral can successfully integrate 42 and unlock synergies. So what's your take on these developments for Spectral Capital Corporation? Do you think this acquisition is a smart move, or are there hidden risks we should be watching? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this breakdown helpful, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more in-depth corporate analysis, and don't forget to join our growing community on Discord. The link is in the description. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next Decode.